Scott, a looming issue that I think we have to figure out, is our exploding national debt and our deficit. Unfortunately, D.C. tends not to care very much about the spending practices. What can be done and should be done, and how great of a threat is this to our future economic prosperity?
Look, Charlie, it's one of the reasons, other than the inspiration of President Trump and my admiration for him, the other reason that I've become so involved here is that I think that this was for all the marbles. 2024 was our last chance to begin implementing growth positive policies, get the spending under control, or we were going to become a European-style social democracy where basically you just live to service the debt. There's no growth. We're seeing that in Europe right now. But Charlie, I am quite optimistic on two fronts. One, that Donald Trump with the Musk cost-cutting commission, if you think about a very simple formula, G equal S minus T. So government equals spending minus taxes. Everyone always solves the government problem by more taxes. And Donald Trump wants to change the spending problem. Because I tell you, this Biden administration, they have just spent. They have blown out the spending, and we've got to get it under control. And more importantly, like in the UK, they call it value for money. I think the American people should not come to expect that the government's mediocre. I think the government can be at the forefront of things. So that expectation. And then, but Charlie, the thing that will solve the deficit problems, debt and deficit problems more than anything else is unshackling the U.S. economy and changing the growth trajectory. If we can get real growth, low real inflationary growth over 3%, that will stabilize the debt and we will begin paying it down in a few years. Now, what was I was still kind of buzzing for a day or two afterwards. On Sunday, I had conversations with two of the greatest venture capitalist household names in America. And they are so constructive that the U.S. could enter this new golden age, powered by, they basically said, like, Scott, if Team Trump can get the economic framework and the regulatory framework right, that the technological innovation that we are about to see accelerate through AI and other industries could lead to a new golden age in the U.S. And they said, look, you and Larry Kudlow are the highest that we could have 3% growth. We think it could be 5% growth.
That is extraordinary. And in some ways, Scott, that unintentionally addresses the debt issue, right? I mean, meaning if you are outpacing the rate of which you are borrowing and inflation, it calms things down a little bit, right? So if you have really high growth, not to make an excuse for inflation, but if you have a 2.5% inflation rate and a 5% growth rate, that can buy you a lot of economic leeway. Is that correct? About a minute and a half remaining.
Yeah, that's 100%. The Biden administration did the opposite. They had 2% growth and then 9% inflation. So that gives you a lot of runway. And so we stabilize the debt. We grow our way out of this because, I will tell you, my biggest worry last week, I'd been predicting that we'd have this big Trump stock market rally, but I was worried that the the long end of the bond market, which is where everything's financed from factories to housing, would blow out. And it went up a lot on Wednesday. And by the end of the week, because of the talk of cost cutting and fiscal prudence, the 10-year bond rate was lower on Friday than where it was on Monday, and it's even lower today. So that tells me the bond market is sniffing out the idea that we can have low inflationary growth and get ourselves out of this mess. Now, it's not going to be easy, but I am very optimistic after what happened on Tuesday night.